In this KOTOR Remake news update video, I will be showing you the first ever screenshots of the game. These in-development images have just leaked from the Aspire version, plus a bunch of former developers have also revealed more information about what went down. Before we do take a look at all of today's news though, make sure you do subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any future Knights of the Old Republic remake videos. So, a couple of weeks ago I made a video about a piece of concept art, the very first piece of concept art that leaked from the KOTOR remake, and that came from MP First, who discovered it in an artist's portfolio. The image showed what they were sort of going for in terms of how the game would look, but now we actually have screenshots of assets made for the game, as well as an in-development, as well as a gameplay screenshot that was completely unfinished in terms of development. Once again, this was discovered by MP First, so shout out to them, and they found these images in a portfolio of an artist that formerly worked at Aspire, the development team that were originally working on the KOTOR remake prior to the project being taken away from them in 2022. Let's get started with the image that I think most people will be interested in, and it's the actual gameplay view of the game. And yes, it is completely unfinished, but as you can see, they were actually working on this game at some point, and they had assets being made, some textured, some untextured, and you can see all the dev debug tools at the top of the screen there, as well as some UI for a companion system by the looks of it, because that seems to be Mission Veo, and it's connected to the D-pad on the controller. This shows a third-person camera perspective, which we all expected it to have, and despite the lack of textures, we can get an idea of what the game was going to look like in terms of the player point of view. Then we have some closer-up images of the Vibro Sword, which looks pretty cool indeed, along with a bunch of other props as well. There was just an assortment of these props that were made by one of the artists at Aspire. This is where it's all coming from. So you see a bunch of equipment and helmets, things like that. There are also a couple of images for the blaster rifle, the blaster pistol, and a bunch of other storage units, things like that. It's pretty funny how this design of storage container in Star Wars has lasted thousands of years. According to the artist and their portfolio that MP First saw, some of these props belong to an introductory level, and it's also mentioned that the weapons are being designed with a modular weapon system in mind. This would allow players to upgrade guns by swapping out various parts. We can see a bit of that in action with this image, showing how the blaster rifle is built up of various different parts, so the barrel, the scope, the stock, and the main blaster. MP First doesn't know exactly when these assets were created. These may have been taken not long before Aspire lost the project, and it ended up all getting moved over to Saber, who have seemingly rebooted it completely. The artist worked with Aspire until 2022, and that's when the project was paused and eventually moved to Saber. Let's now take a look at some comments from former developers that worked on the game at Aspire. So, these two developers I showcased in previous videos of mine, but they are back with even more comments. So, for example, there is this Reddit account called RandomJPEG6 who worked on the remake at Aspire, and he said, "It's absolutely with Saber now, and I'm in the dark as much as you are. Saber left us completely in the dark when they took the game away. My educated guess is that it's a very long ways off from release. I suspect they pretty much started from the ground up from what we had, but again, I can't say for sure because they didn't tell us anything. Even the company founders didn't know." He also wanted to clarify a bunch of misinformation that's been going around, because a lot of people seem to think the team working on the KOTOR remake were not equipped. There were a bunch of just people that worked on ports and nothing more, but that could not be further from the truth. The team that actually was assigned to the KOTOR remake at Aspire was a brand new team. It was mostly BioWare Austin developers that worked on the Old Republic and Anthem. And then they also had some people that did work on Mass Effect 1 through 3, as well as Dragon Age 3, which is Dragon Age Inquisition. Another developer, Vagabond Texan, also specifically said that, as we've said before, mismanagement is what killed the team more than the actual talent that was hired to make the KOTOR remake. And then a lengthy post came from the Random JPEG developer. So basically he said that 100% Star Wars, the YouTuber that's covered the KOTOR remake in depth, has said he has mostly good coverage of what happened as opposed to what Jason Schreier has put out, which is interesting because, as we all know, most people tend to believe him, and this is what this developer is getting at. He says everyone just believes it, but he actually didn't get as much right as opposed to 100% Star Wars, who got a lot more correct. Long story short, it was a variety of things that happened, but it was mostly company politics. Lucasfilm was like the encouraging mum who would sometimes, to a fault, keep giving their child chances, and Sony was the stern father of the relationship. Lucasfilm absolutely loved us, meaning Aspyr, and Sony was forced to play with us because ultimately they didn't own the IP. Based on what these developers have said in the past, it sounds like Sony was just going on a buying spree of exclusive content. They didn't actually care about the content as much, they just wanted to buy up as much as they can to bolster the PS5 library. The developer signs off by saying, "I truly have no idea what's going on right now with KOTOR Remake. It's dead to me. I ended up losing my job and have not had a full-time job in 3 years. I have lost everything and I'll probably never financially recover. The only reason why I'm saying all of this is out of spite." So yeah, it just goes to show that things like this in the games industry are very, very real and have detrimental effects, not to the fans that have complained they haven't heard anything for years, things like that, but the people that actually worked on these projects that did not get to see their work through completion. And yeah, it's very sad to read something like that. So for now, we absolutely have no idea when this game will next show up, even though it has been around 3 years since Saber will have started over, but they are very, very busy. As I mentioned in my previous video, they have a lot of projects going on, despite having a lot of different studios and a lot of different teams. The KOTOR Remake is definitely one that requires a lot more time and attention than some of the other projects. I would love to hear your thoughts on anything I've talked about in this video, so please do let me know down in the comment section below, and remember to drop a like to help support the channel, subscribe so you don't miss any future Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake videos, and if you did miss any of my previous videos, click on the playlist on the screen right now, and I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye.